What's going on, everyone? John Redinger from Techno Buffalo here, and in case you've been living under a tech rock the past few days, you've no doubt seen the leaks that Gizmodo posted about their hands-on time with the iPhone 4G. I'm going to give you a bit of background on the story and talk about sort of the ethical quandary and whether or not I agree or disagree what Gizmodo did, and talk a little bit about checkbook journalism. So here's the brief story. About 3.5-ish weeks ago, an Apple junior engineer who had a iPhone 4G prototype, actually disguised as an iPhone 3GS, went out to a bar to celebrate his birthday just a few miles from Apple's Cupertino headquarters. Presumably, he may have celebrated a little bit too much, got up and left his prototype iPhone 4G on the bar stool. And this is all according to Gizmodo. So somebody found it, changed hands a few times. By the time the guy got it home, he realized that this actually wasn't an iPhone 3GS. It had sort of a weird casing on it, pulled off the casing, and revealed some very, very different and unique hardware. He had a chance to play around with the phone for a few hours, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and the phone had been remotely wiped by Apple, which itself was probably a bit of a red flag. This was indeed a legitimate iPhone 4G prototype. So evidently he called Apple to say, listen, I've got a prototype, what do you want to do with it? Apple, whatever the junior sales reps, they answered the phone, or the customer service rep sort of blew it off, figured it was a hoax, as would I, and the guy was left with a legitimate iPhone 4G prototype. So what he did next is sort of where this video starts. He tried to sell the device to different tech blogs. It was offered to Engadget, Gizmodo, and presumably a few others. And now this is all sort of happenstance, and we don't know if everything that's being said is true. But the senior editor of Engadget said he passed on the device, didn't feel it was right to actually buy a post and buy news, and Gizmodo decided they wanted to jump on it and actually paid $5,000 for the device. This is where the things start to get a little bit gray and a little bit hazy, and sort of depending on where you stand. So what Gizmodo did was they paid $5,000 for the device. They did their due diligence, they took the device apart, verified that it was actually an Apple product, there was Apple internals, and they went live with the story. Now, here's where my question is. If they knew this was indeed an Apple prototype, then it was Apple's property. And they bought Apple's property. So whether or not you consider them buying stolen goods, or whether Apple really didn't make an effort to get it back at the time, it's going to be up to you. So where do you stand on checkbook journalism? Do you think Gizmodo was right to buy the device? Well, I have to be honest with you. I'm a pretty clean-cut guy. I abide by a pretty set code of ethics. However, if someone offered me an iPhone 4G prototype to post on Techno Buffalo, I'd be very hard-pressed to say no. And I'm just being honest with you. And try and be honest with yourself and answer this question. If I had the opportunity to buy the iPhone 4G prototype, I probably would have bought it. Now, I would have probably closely done what Gizmodo did. Would have posted on it, and as soon as Apple got in touch with me, I would have given them their property back. So essentially, I would have been letting Apple know that I had the device in a very public forum. I know it's a bit shady and a bit gray, and I can see both sides of the debate, but push comes to shove, I probably would have done it. And that's a tough thing to admit, whether or not you would do something like that or not do something like that. And I think the majority of people out there would definitely want to get their hands on a device. However, what Gizmodo did next, I do not agree with. They found out the name of the junior engineer who lost the prototype and published it. And this is where I tend to disagree. And there are two sides of the fence here. Some are claiming, I'm not going to mention the guy's name, that Gizmodo published his name to get public support for the guy so that Apple couldn't fire him, and if they did, there would be a public outcry. The other side of that fence is Gizmodo was just trying to milk it a little bit and wanted people to know who this guy was so he could be held accountable for what he did. I would not have posted the name. I think it was handled a little bit on the tacky side. However, if their intentions were good, if they wanted to drum up support for the junior engineer, then good for them. Although I think I would have had a very hard time putting that information out there. Gizmodo essentially cost this young man his career. And if Gizmodo didn't buy the phone, somebody else would have. So the information would have gotten out there somehow. There's no doubt about that. So Gizmodo sort of preempted their competition by agreeing to purchase the device. So I wanted to give a bit of a history on it and see what you guys thought. Would you have bought the device if you ran a tech blog or a technology-focused YouTube channel? Do you agree or disagree? It's tough to make a decision on that. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys have to say. Leave a text or video response. Anyway, I'm John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.